So, Shaun Ericson, thank you so much for making the time out of your, I know, very hectic day to have this chat with me. How are you doing?
I'm good, Steve, and
Good.
always make time for you. Always.
That's great. So for our audience, I brought you on this. I brought you on this kind of thinking partnership interview style chat, really to get some insight for the people who are in the Facebook group, the managers who lead, and you have an impressive history. And full disclosure, I worked for Shaun with Shaun in San Diego, and it was probably one of the best periods of my working career, just in terms of where I was in the world, who I was working with, what I was doing in my work, and it's a testimony to Shaun and the C-level team's leadership there. So thank you for that. But Shaun, today I wanted to just kind of have you share with the audience sort of what you do, what drives you, and especially in your role as a founder of an organization, what fires you up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And let me just also say, I learned a lot from you while working with you, alongside you and the team. It's one of the things that inspires me, is being around really intelligent individuals and us creating things that are special and unique in the software space. So I also appreciate the time that I spent with you as well, and make sure that's acknowledged. 'Cause you definitely, I learned a lot from you, as well as you kept me in line quite a bit. So I appreciate that as well. Um, with respect to what I do, I mean, that's a pretty big question and statement. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have probably responded and say, oh, I founded a company. And, that probably would have been a lot of part of how I would define myself. You ask me today, who I am. I'm a husband. I'm a family person. I have three beautiful children, a beautiful wife, intelligent wife that challenges me and is a great partner in my life. Beautiful broader family. That's an anchor to a lot of things that I do today, and that's what inspires me today, and that kind of defines some of the extrinsic and intrinsic motivational things that fire me up. I know that this isn't about that, but it's as I get older and I get more gray hairs on my head, what defines me and what I do, it changes. And I think that's just a reflection of age. From the business side, I am a co-founder of a software development company. We've been around for knocking on 14 years now, and I help lead that business along with my other co-founder and the other individuals at the business. The business name is Cyrusson. I don't actually think you know this, Steve, as well, but I actually own a preschool as well. That's a recent development, and maybe that's the story for another day. But the preschool that my daughter goes to, just by proxy of that business going through some turbulence, I stepped in and helped, along with some other family members, keep that preschool alive. And it's flourishing now, and it's in a really great place. But that's a very big question, but high level is, on the business side, I'm co-founder, and I help drive a software development company along with the preschool.
That is awesome. I didn't know about the preschool, and that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is that is awesome. And you know what? It doesn't surprise me from the personality type that you are. And like you said, it's interesting how you, even in that sort of 10-year shift, how you would define yourself 10 years ago to how you define yourself now
Yeah.
is a real difference. I'm going to ask a question because you're the first founder that I've interviewed. So
Hmm.
this is, I guess, one of these things that I think you see on the Gartner and all of the surveys. What are the two or three top things that keep you awake at night about the business? What are the top concerns as a founder that you see?
That's an interesting question, because I also think as your journey grows as a founder, that answer shifts as well.
Mm.
Um, If you ask me today, not much, because I have an awesome team around me that I work alongside of, and I trust implicitly to do what is best for themselves and for the business. And I know when I put my head on the pillow that Europe is waking up and they're representing our business like I would want them to, because that's the definition of our culture. So there isn't much that causes me turbulence at night these days. I'm also, you know, I learned this phrase. It's very cliche, but it just sat with me really well. Is there's no good news, there's no bad news. There's just news, and just how you deal with it. And you know, some days are awesome and things are just firing on all cylinders, and then some days it's a shitstorm, and it's terrible. I'll give you a very topical example. Right now, our SaaS product is having outages right this moment. And I know that the team there is doing the best they can to deal with those things, but I didn't reschedule this meeting because I trust them implicitly to do the right thing. And honestly, I have no value. There's no value I could add outside of just like creating noise for them and just being like the noisy person in their world that adds no value. So, not much to be honest. I've also come to the being grounded in that, our business is going to grow if we do things strategically and a concerted effort across the business. And, those things happen as you make many steps to make those big steps. And we have overarching goals that come over the year. We're not going to get to those unless we make all those little steps. And it's just a process. It takes time. And, if you have, a solid understanding of what you are as a business and a solid understanding where you want to go, and you can understand how to fill that gap, those things naturally fill in. So I don't know if I'm answering your questions the right way, but, that's just the reality of it these days. That's how I approach the business.
That's powerful as well, because like I said, it's important. It's important for self-care that you are able to put your head on the pillow at night. And also create an environment where that is, where the leader is, people will follow. So if you're setting that example of not running around with your hair on fire, getting in people's way to get stuff done, then.
Yeah, I also think that I don't know. I think I'm a little bit of I wouldn't call myself like a quote unquote leader per se, like by definition. Remember Melissa back at Ericson?
Mm-hmm.
She was great. And she actually, one day randomly, she came up to me, and she was such an awesome person, just such a great heart. And she came up to me and said, I just want you to know that I appreciate you. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you as well. And she's like, you've taught me a lot. And, I see you as a servant leader. And I said, oh, that's such an interesting, I internalized that. Like, that's such an interesting, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I knew what she meant right away when she said it. And for me, that just so that's translated, in the context of the phrase is that, yes, I co-founded a company. But I also am keenly aware that this is an effort that is an aggregation of multiple individuals across the world that are working in concert to make things happen, and I'm just a part of that engine, that story. Yes, I have to make decisions around budgets and decision on where the business goes. That is a true statement. But also, I'm in the grind. I am next to my peers. I'm working alongside them, and I'm doing what I can do as best as I can do to make this business do what it needs to do to get to its next step. And there's nothing above or beneath what I am happy to do. Some days I'm in front of support calls because we need to have some scale there. Some days I'm in front of sales cycles because we need to have me there. Some days I'm in front of development efforts because one of the things I am good at is understanding business requirements and translating those to product needs. And, I learned that about myself. What value can I add in a business and what value can I not? And where does the aggregation of everyone's efforts work in concert to make things really special? And, I serve the business to make it successful. And I don't know if that's a traditional definition of a leader, but that works for me. That works for my soul. And when I go to bed, I am not worried, but I wake up, I'm really excited about my day because I get to work a lot next to my peers that are much smarter than me and awesome to work with.
That is so that is so impactful. There's a couple of things that I want to tease out of that is how you how you describe servant leadership is beautiful. What are the things around, or just speak to values and culture? I know you, and I almost know the answer to these questions, but I want the audience to kind of hear you articulate how important like values are and how important culture is. I think you've mentioned some of this as you talked, but just explicitly speak to those two things. Oh, and let me add a third is how that can tangibly impact how not only how the company performs, but how customers see you. I know that side as well. So if you can speak to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts to there. I think you've heard me say this, and it's such a simple thing. Just do the right thing. Just do the right thing. It's such a simple thing to say and a simple thing to do, but I think everyone at the end of the day is a human being, and everyone wants to be treated in the same way. And if you do the right thing all the time, it just translates well. It translates well to the business. It translates well to how the business interacts with customers. It translates well to the customer's interaction with us. And just doing the right thing is such a simple thing, but that's how I treat my day to day. And I think that's an anchor for me. And I don't say it a lot. I don't say it a lot because that's just how I operate. But when I'm asked, that's usually my answer is just do the right thing. I also say something as well, and I actually haven't said this in a long time, but something you said in there that I think it was culture that you said that sparked this, is that we all want to work with people we want to work with. And to be in an environment that you're working with people you don't want to work with is miserable. It's miserable. So I think, I haven't said this in a long time, but you said the word culture. I don't care if you're the smartest person in the world. If you're not a nice person and you don't do the right thing and you come off in those ways, you're not going to work here. And I think it's a reflection of us being so protective of the business and who we work with. Again, I think it's a simple thing, but it surprises me when I work with other partners, or I work with other customers, and I get on calls and I feel toxicity. I see toxicity. I see the person in the room that just, needs to be a little bit aggressive or needs to be, the smartest person in the room. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's going to have varying personalities. But I personally don't think that's healthy for any company. And I think that, the culture is a reflection, our culture, is a reflection of those people that are brought on board that, I want to work with people I want to work with. And I like the people I work with. It's a fun group. It's a great group. We have laughs. We work hard. We're inspiring each other, so and I think that's the first part of your question. And then the second part of your question is customers feel that. They feel that, when we're in front of customers or partners, camera is always on. And whether they have the camera on or not, our camera is on. I want them to see us. I want them to look us in the eyes. I want them to feel our energy. And whether you have me or any of my colleagues, you're going to get this energy. It may be different because we're all different individuals, but you're going to get this palpable, like, I'm here. What are the things we need to talk about? Let's work in tandem to get through whatever it is, whether it's a support thing, a sales thing, a marketing thing, a development thing, whatever it is. And you can just, and it's not like it's done being intentionally, because like this is just who we are, but you know that customers want to work with us because they can feel that energy, they can feel that care, and it's something you can't define in words. You just feel it. Even in the days of like this remoteness of like everything. I can't remember the last time I had a customer meeting, 8 years, no, sorry, 5, 6 years ago. Even then I was traveling and meeting customers, but um, you just feel it. And I think the tone we set on in the business translates to that
Yeah.
very well.
That's awesome. That and like I said, I echo that, and I experienced that palpably myself in terms of my
Yeah.
roles there.
Well,
For
you were
that,
a customer facing experience as well, right? And
yeah,
and when
yeah,
we were in the San Diego office, we were arm's length
yeah,
away from each other, along with the support team, and that was a great team, great culture, and you set a great tone across the business around that as well. And you were an awesome reflection of all of that, if not the reflection, if not the person that shined the most. But yeah, 100%.
that's great. What would you say in terms of where you sit in an organization? And I've asked this. I've had similar responses from other senior managers and executives. What's your best advice for someone who is aspiring to manage or aspiring to move into a position of management or leadership in some format? And what would your best advice be? Let's leave it there.
Lead by example. Lead by example. Your people are going to want to work for you, and if you can show them that, one, you're competent in what you do. Secondly, you can hopefully empathize. That's a really key piece, because either you've done the role that they're doing or you have some sort of empathetical tie to it. That's a really key piece. If not, sympathize with it. Show them that you're not there just to delegate tasks and to throw things over the fence, that you're going to work alongside them and work through projects and goals together as a team. Uh, and also, like, I don't want anyone to work more than 8 hours a day. Sometimes you have to. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of a growing business or strong businesses. And don't be the person, the leader, the manager that checks in and out by the clock. If your team is struggling and they're getting in early and they're leaving late, be the first person there, be the last person to leave. Let them know that you're there to support them in whatever capacity that you can. There's just so many little things that you can do there that leading by example, I think, is key. Again, I don't know where it's at right now because we've been on the session, but we've had some outages today, and about 45 minutes ago, I pinged our director of development, and I said, "Hey, I add no value, but I just want you to know that I'm here, and if you need anything, just let me know." And his response was like, "I won't be shy." Right. And that's great, because that's what I want him to know. Like, I want to know I'm here, but I also want to know that I'm like not going to bother him. Right. And so just, I think leading by example is at least for me, at least that works for me. And that's what I would think is important. And also, I know we're in I don't want this to come out the wrong way. So like, I feel like generationally, there's a lot of like work-life balance things that are communicated, and making sure you're healthy, emotionally, cognitively, physically, all those things, like, and make sure that work doesn't consume you, and like listen, I think, and those are important, right? You need to have a balance in life. I don't want this to be what I'm about to say taken the wrong way, but don't be afraid to grind. Don't be afraid to grind. Don't be afraid to put in the work. Don't be afraid to look at that project and just pound on it and work on it and grind through it and show the team that you're there alongside them, right? Don't be afraid to grind, because if you're afraid to grind, you're that person that's just there floating around and like delegating things. No one's going to respect you. No one's going to want to be working for you. And when you ask them to do something, they may do it, but they're going to half-ass it. A little bit of a sloppy answer, a little bit all over the place, but I think a lot of that stuff helps.
That is awesome, and I think you're on point with that aspect of not being afraid to grind, because there's an element of flow that comes with really being involved in intense activity. I would say activity rather than work, because people
Yeah,
always think work is always about the job or the place you go to earn an income, whereas sometimes people are happy to grind on a keyboard or a guitar,
100%,
right?
100%.
And if you've got that if you've got that mentality that says, man, I'm going to knock out this tune, I just got to get this riff down,
Yeah,
and you apply that to a challenge or a project at work, then people can see that that's the kind of person that you are. So yeah, like
yeah,
you said, not being afraid is key.
100%, 100%. I think that's in any aspect of life. You have an hour workout, go work out for an hour. You have 30 minutes on your calendar to go play guitar and practice it. Go play guitar for 30 minutes and go knock it out, right?
Mm.
You have family time, turn off your phone and go spend time with your kids, right? That's a very spot on. We're talking about business, but I couldn't agree with you. And I think that's also, at least for me, a reflection of how my day has shifted. If you look at my calendar, and everyone knows this is very clear, right? I'm happy to work before 7 a.m., which I do, and I'm happy to work after 9 a.m. But between 7 and 9, I get my kids up from bed. I have breakfast with them. I get them ready. Our nanny comes over to watch our little one, and then I take my daughter to preschool. And from 7 to 9, I can't take any meetings. And that's just the reality of it. And in order for me to serve the business, I need to serve my family. And those are anchors that I have non-negotiables on, right? And those 7 to 9, I'm present. I'm focused. I'm grinding is not the right word because that's not what it is, but I'm 100% focused in on that time spent with them. So just taking your point and kind of giving some tangible examples, if you will,
Yeah.
how I translated at least.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. I'm gonna land the plane here, so to speak,
Sure.
because that was really insightful to show that we have to live holistically. I mean, whatever you do in your workspace or your career or running a business,
Mm.
those are important. Those are important aspects to who you are, but they are aspects to who you are. And if you fall into the trap of having them define you, then that's a slippery slope. And
100%.
like you said, in
Yeah.
terms of understanding the attributes of, I say, flow and activity, because then the
Yeah.
grind gets a connotation that makes you feel like you're actually doing it to your detriment, as opposed to
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I like flow. I'm going to steal that. Flow is a
yeah.
much more pleasant diplomatic word.
There you go. There you go. But imagine we've got an audience. We've got an audience here of people that across the board. I mean, and I want to make sure that these discussions are more like thinking partnerships.
Sure.
I have the guest really express where they're at, what they feel, and I just guide it a little bit. But there's a wide and a potentially diverse audience listening to this interview. So, what would be something that would be sort of a parting gift or a comment or a thought that you would share with somebody? Give it a framework in terms of they are aspiring to do something where they can lead in. It could be their own business, it could be a side hustle, it could be their job, it could be a position within their job. Is there something that you would, if you were walking down the corridor or had a coffee moment, or what would you what could you or would you share with somebody like that?
Definitely sprinkle things along this conversation around that. I think it's also where you're at in your career, as well, like what you're looking to do. Because even your examples, like if I want to make a career shift versus starting a business versus being a manager, those are just different dialogues.
Right.
But I think a theme around any of that is if that's something you want to do, whatever it is, take the next step in your career, start a business, lead as a manager, make sure that you know you want to do that. Like that's the first thing. Like make sure you're like you know you want to do it, not because someone's telling you or social media is telling you or your family's telling you that's the right. Make sure you know you want to do that. If you know you want to do that, just get it done. Don't be distracted. Be hyper focused on how to take that step. And that can mean an array of things. Some people might have family, and you know what? They have their day job and they want to get to their next thing. It's going to take evening time and consume that around nap times and bedtimes, right? That can mean you're really young in your career and you want to take that next step in your career. Maybe you don't go out Friday and Saturday night, and maybe you spend the weekends skilling up or going to school or vocational school or whatever it is, right, to take you to that next step. Heaven forbid you want to start a business, but if that's something you want to aspire to, which is it's effortful, it's fruitful, but it's effortful. You got to be all in. You got to be all in and hyper focused. I've said that word to you, in our past lives, being hyper focused, and it's a little cliche, but when you're hyper focused and like you're so hyper focused that people are inspired by it because they know that this is going to succeed because this person is going to literally pull it across the finish line to succeed. People want to be part of that. And if you're hyper focused in that, you're going to be that person in the room that everyone knows. There's no doubt that that person is going to succeed. And you know that person. Everyone on this call knows who that person is when I say that. And it's clear. It's clear when you know you want to succeed, and that's showing in your efforts versus the person that says, I want to do this, but is not doing it. So know you want to do it. If you know you want to do it, just get it done.
Love it. Love it. That's a great tagline there. First know you want to do it and then get it done. I love it. Yeah. Shaun, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Just you carving out the time and just sharing your heart and your life and just what you're about. And it really does show. It shines through. And I can vouch for pretty much everything that you shared with us today, being alongside you and working with you in the business as well. So really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. I'll leave you with this. I want to also say thank you to you, Steve, as well. What you're doing is awesome as well. And I'm excited for another one.
That's great. That's great. Thank you again.